category. They've got to recognize the obvious and deal with the obvious, and not to worry about groupthink or community think when it's going to be individuals. Everybody who listens to this program individually has to act. Now, how would I act politically? I think with all of the ability to get news out there quickly, if you see some politician on a state or local level and federal level, I think there needs to be flash recall positions commensurate and equal to the law. If somebody is anti-constitutional, wanting to do away with any of their constitutional guarantees, and I actually am astonished that there have been no court challenges to date on what I would call a hate crime, where if the official position is if you believe in the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, if you believe in God, if you're a veteran, you're an automatic terrorist or subject to terrorist claims. It's getting so bad that if you have matches and a pipe and you happen to be a plumber and you're a smoker, that can be prima facie evidence. So we've lost our way, and unless the people speak up, and I actually don't believe they will, they can speak up, but most of the time they complain. And I mean this, they have to take definitive action and recall the traitors, and I call them traitors, that have absolutely sold this country out. And I think people would be astonished if they found out that foreigners own the majority of the United States right now, and that our government has made secret deals with the Chinese and the different holders of our commercial paper. And I think it's criminal that people in this country do not have jobs, and that all of the jobs that were available, and I think there's going to be a backlash. I personally want to buy U.S. anytime I can. It doesn't matter to me the price. I want to support my fellow Americans, and I think that the first industries that start to relocate back to the United States, and if whatever time we have left, and I believe it's very short, but while you have an opportunity to buy locally, shop locally, instead of buying foreign furniture, go to a guy that can make you furniture out of logs. It'll be lasting longer and probably, helping that guy feed his family. I think we've got to act.
You don't think it's too late, Stephen?
I do think it's too late, okay, and I actually qualified that by saying as much time as we may have left. I believe this fall all hell will break loose. I believe that once the New Madrid goes off, I pronounced that wrong, New Madrid goes off, we're going to see a world that changes so quickly. And I do believe, George, that if people want to preserve any of their wealth, they've got to look at silver. I think silver is the only way. And I started talking on Coast to Coast when silver was $6 an ounce. I had a guy call me today who wanted to thank me, and this is unsolicited, and he just said, I bought my first batch of gold from you at $275, thank you. I bought my first silver from you at $385. Now, that was almost a decade ago.
Oh, yeah. Can you believe that?
And he said I was called a fool, but he said, that's what saved my family, Steve. And I said, thank you, Brad. Thank you very much. So, the point is that ever since Max Kaiser said buy an ounce of silver, break the silver shorts, there's only 700 million ounces of silver, and every time that people buy 1 ounce of silver, it takes 1 ounce of silver that they can't manipulate. And I believe that will be the currency of those outside of the system, and there's even now an attempt to make bartering illegal. You probably saw that story coming out of the Justice Department.
Okay, let's go. Yes, I did. Jim in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, you're up with Stephen Quayle on Coast to Coast, Jimmy.
Oh,
go ahead.
Guys, hey, thank you so much for having me on this show.
Well, sure thing.
I'm a little in shock here. Bear with me. Hey, I just had a question for Stephen about the New Madrid fault, but I wanted to mention quickly, I saw a really cool television commercial tonight from Kia Motors that features a UFO and aliens that abduct a Kia auto, take it into their ship, drive it into a wormhole, and the car appears on top of a Mayan temple. I just thought that was kind of like a really weird, high-profile kind of a spot for that type of thing, considering most people probably wouldn't even know what that's all about anyway, But, hey, my question about the I didn't hear the whole show. I heard you talking a little bit about the New Madrid fault, and my question was, is it expected to go? And if it does go, what area of the country is it supposed to hit, and what is the expected devastation?
Well, the official FEMA devastation projection $600 billion, and the relocation of, I think, 4.2 million people. The Great Lakes drain. The Mississippi widens to the tune of several hundred miles. And the amount of fatalities is what they're kind of keeping mum on. But in effect, it will dissect the country. Everything east of the Mississippi, at least the east of the Mississippi, whatever it ends up being is pretty much isolated. And by the way, that Navy map shows most of the east of the coast, 200 miles in, is no longer existing, and California as being the islands, just the main mountain chain in California, and it shows the ocean coming in to basically southern Montana, northern Wyoming, and a part of Colorado. Northern Idaho is safe, and a little bit of Washington safe, but it changes everything. Now, why would the Navy put out a map like that? They know better than anybody all the faults, all the subterranean caverns that are under the ocean. I mean, the ocean has been mapped. All of the fractures, they have forms of scanning with satellite technology and tomography, which means they can CAT scan 200 miles deep. They pretty much know how it's going to fracture. And in the last 2 weeks, probably one of the most telling bits of information came out that they're now tying quartz in with earthquakes. And it just so happens that some of the largest quartz deposits in the United States run along the New Madrid. So the thing that's interesting, if you blast a bunch of energy into those with, quote, ancient technology weapons or new derived from ancient technology weapons, you can literally load the fault. The quartz acts as a capacitor. It begins to resonate. As it begins to resonate, it causes a fractioning, if you will, of the atomic matter in specific layers and different types of rocks, and you can help it along. And that's what everyone is concerned with, especially when it comes to quote-unquote tectonic weapons, and what has some indications that the situation in Japan was not a natural disaster.
Well, there's been some talk about that. I don't know, Stephen, but you do feel as if there's some hope at the end here. There's a light at the end of the tunnel, don't you?
I do. I believe that. No, I do. I mean, if I didn't have hope, George, I'd shut up. But I think that you can have hope. And I have a lot of hope. But my hope is not in the goodness of man. I believe man is not good based on what I see. I believe man can be amazing, returned to its original created state, and I believe that only the Creator, the living God, can do that. So my hope, literally, and literally the Bible, I quote one scripture all the time that says, "They that know their God shall be strong and do exploits." And an exploit even means overcoming the forces of nature. So, people say, well, people sometimes say to me, well, I want to hear all that stuff, but I don't want to hear about God. And I said, who do you think is leading me to tell you the stuff that I know in order that it might point you to God? So there are people that just absolutely, for whatever reasons, hurt, bitterness, anger, or an allegiance to Satan, Lucifer, whatever, simply don't want to hear it. But they even quote the book of Revelation. Not all of those groups, but most of them do. So I think we're living in the most dangerous time in history, and I believe there are answers, but I believe everyone has to personally prepare. Food first, water. They're going to need communications. In my opinion, satellite phone. Even if the United States gets racked and devastated, then you're going to be able to go overseas and get through. I don't think cell phones or landlines are going to work.
Okay, we'll go to Robin in Oakland, California. Hey, Robin, let's squeeze you in real fast. Go ahead. Robin.
I'll tell you, George. Hello?
Hi.
Can you
Go
hear
ahead,
me?
man. Yep.
Oh, well, Steve and George, it's a pleasure to finally reach you. A good man is hard to find, and I've been waiting for about 4 months to get a hold of you. So you do a wonderful job. Steve, I just wanted to let you know, honey, that I know what it feels like to have your heart hurt with all of the stuff that you know. I was 4 when my aunt wanted to put me in the nut house because I knew all this stuff. But
you knew this at 4 o'clock, Robin? 4 years old?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Well, it's a long story, George. Over a drink sometime.
Oh no! Hey, we're almost out of time. Robin, thanks for the call. Stephen, let's wrap this up. First of all, you let us know when this new book, Angel Wars, Past, Present, and Future, gets published, okay?
I will, and thank you so much for the opportunity. And again, I want people to know they can prepare. There are things they can do. Again, finding like-minded people is a very encouraging thing at this point, especially during the times. And my website is Steve Quayle, SteveQuayle.com. And I would recommend, if people are interested in what I'm talking about, and they can only order it on my website, get the book Aliens and Fallen Angels, The Sexual Corruption of the Human Race, and then Weather Wars will deal with all the weird weather that's going on, and it'll help people to understand. Again, the biggest antidote for fear is understanding. And once you have the understanding, that's what should provoke everyone to prepare. And do not, and here's my final statement, do not trust the United States press or TV. Go overseas on the Internet. Actually, there's so many good sites, and that's what I do most of my time, 18 hours a day when I'm not talking to people, George, is searching the Internet for the stories that I think are pertinent. And again, I'd encourage everybody who is capable to really look at silver right now because, again, it's not a pitch. It's a way to deliver yourself from whatever happens. And no matter what happens, barter has always been the way that people conduct trade amongst themselves.
Absolutely. Stephen Quayle, thank you so much. Well, everybody, I'll see you on our next edition of Coast to Coast. For Dan Galante, Tom Danheiser, Lisa Lyon, Lex Lonehood, Sean Ladesseur, Stephanie Smith, Ross Mitchell, George Nappy, and Pundit and Art Bell, I'm George Noory. Somewhere out there on Coast to Coast AM. We'll see you on our next edition. Until then, be safe, everybody.